What actor or actress stupidly left a movie franchise or TV series thinking they were too good for it, only to be never popular again? George Lazenby has to be the top answer. Dude with zero acting experience lands the role of James Bond after Sean Connery, and was offered a multi-film deal to be Bond for the foreseeable future. Then, his agent just totally misguides him, telling him both that it's the summer of love and nobody is going to keep wanting to see spy movies about killing people, but also that since he'd already appeared in a film, he could ask for whatever he wanted and they couldn't turn him down. They brought Connery back for a film instead and Lazenby's acting career basically ended on the spot. Chuck Woolery left Wheel of Fortune only to see PAT SAJAK host it for over 40 years. Several of the actors of MASH left early to make it big, none of them really did. Crystal Reed from Teen Wolf. She was so certain she was done she had them off her character only for her career to flop outside of Teen Wolf and / 10 years later would come back and have them revive her character for the movie. Calculon. You left Melrose Place to do a movie with Carrot Top. Brian Dunkelman was CEO host of Season 1 of American Idol with Seacrest, and then quit. Over the years it has toggled back and forth between whether or not he would have been fired anyway, but in at least one interview he admitted to quitting and then almost becoming suicidal over it. My ex-girlfriend was on a soap but as a regular extra. They were starting to give her speaking roles, got her SAG card, etc. Once she got her SAG, she demanded more speaking roles or she was leaving. She never got another role after that. Marcus Chong was Tank in The Matrix. Main character in a huge franchise. He had all of these big ideas about how the movie should be done and how his character should progress. That's fine, but he wouldn't stop pushing them on the directors and producers. When it came time to make Matrix 2 he was not invited back. Dude could have literally just shut up, been cool and thankful, and made huge bank and a bigger career. Like, half the cast of Downton Abbey. Katie Holmes took a pass on The Dark Knight to go be in a movie called Mad Money, and like you, I haven't seen it either. J.A. Rule was in the first Fast and Furious movie. David Caruso leaving NYPD Blue, and Shelley Long leaving Cheers are good examples. Late to the party but Stuart Townsend was the original casting for Aragorn in the LOTR movies, but during pre-production and rehearsals he refused to practice things like swordplay, horse riding, action choreography etc., always responding "you'll get it" on the day Peter Jackson decided he couldn't work with him. Viggo is brought in literally on the first day of shooting and the rest is history. Chad Michael Murray on One Tree Hill. More niche but Michael Shanks leaving Stargate SG-1 only to come back a season later buff as. I think he expected to get more roles but at least they let him come back from the dead. McLean Stevenson from MASH. Edited for format. Lacey Chabert left Family Guy and was replaced by Mila Kunis who has made bank between new episodes and syndication. Remember when Kathrine Heigl was nominated for an Emmy, and she withdrew herself from the nominees because she felt the writing hadn't been good enough? I feel like her career never recovered from that. She also went on to say she didn't like the film Knocked Up which she starred in. I think talking about projects you're involved in is a really good way to burn your bridges. Leo DiCaprio almost missed out on Titanic because he didn't read for parts. James Cameron said something along the lines of, "Okay. Thanks for coming in." Leo responded along the lines of, "Wait, if I don't read I don't get the part." And Cameron explained he'd be working on the film in post for several years after Leo was done filming and he wasn't going to take the risk of casting the wrong person just because he was popular. Not quite your question but I found it interesting. Leo's career could have been derailed if he didn't immediately humble himself to a screen chemistry read with Kate. Not an answer but an interesting side note. Matt Damon turned down the lead role in Avatar. James Cameron wanted him so badly he offered him 10% of profits but Damon still said no. Film made billions, losing Matt Damon around $250 million. Not exactly the same as your question but Sean Connery turned down the role of Gandalf for $30 million plus 15% of profits which would have got him about $450 million. He said he didn't understand the script. So next time he was offered a script he didn't understand, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he took it, ended up so disappointed in the product that he retired from acting. Terrence Howard was in Iron Man 1 and was going to become War Machine. This was the very start of the Marvel movies, the MCU. He got bounced I think for asking for crazy money. Don Cheadle replaced him for Iron Man 2 and all the movies beyond. Katie Holmes dropping out of Batman to do a bomb called Mad Money. With Nicole Kidman. The ex-wives of Tom Cruise. Edit, Nicole Kidman was not in Mad Money. My mistake. Katie Holmes turned down a lead in Orange is the New Black. Katie Holmes turned down the role of Buffy in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series. To be fair to some of the performers who left TV series, the 1-hour format is possibly the most grueling shooting schedule in Hollywood. The leads are often filming 7 days a week with both night and day shots, for almost half the year. If production is not in your backyard, you have to fly and essentially live somewhere else on the few days you get off. Starting or raising a family is difficult, and personal relationships can suffer. If you've already made enough money that you and your family will be taken care of for the rest of your life, why hurt everything for more money? This kind of happened to Topher Grace from that 70s show. He left to be in Spider-Man 3, and I don't think he was what was wrong with the movie. He's popped up here and there and has steady work, but he definitely didn't launch into stardom. That being said, that latter seasons of that 70s show were just plain bad. And he looks almost identical to the way he looked 20 years ago now that he's in that 90s show. Dude seems to have made out just fine. Geez, BuzzFeed isn't even trying to hide it anymore. Edit, holy, my snark is gilded. Thanks guys. I nominate Harrison Ford as the opposite. He hated Star Wars and the character of Han Solo. Thought it was all pop fantasy junk, which, to be fair, it kinda is. But it made him very rich and kept him famous. So he put on the vest and got back into the pilot seat despite strongly disliking the franchise and his character. He even consented to come back for the sequel trilogy despite his age and the fact that he could never spend the money, simply because Star Wars was so big it kept his name in headlines. Of course, the most famous. Leonard Nimoy originally requested that Spock be killed off during Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, as he was tired of playing an unemotional and human character. He even wrote a book explicitly called I Am Not Spock, but as they were filming the scene before he goes into the reactor, he asked the director if he could do the remember bit on McCoy, as a trapdoor out, just in case. Wrath of Khan made millions, and Leonard Nimoy stepped into the directors and wrote and directed the sequel, The Search for Spock, where his character graciously returns. Years later, he wrote a book called I Am Spock, and acknowledged the fame and impact he has had on society. He did a few other roles in his later life. Edit, so the remember thing was written into the script and not something thought of day of. Bennett used it as a twist and something to lure Nimoy back. Does anyone remember Ray William Johnson from =3 who left his show to become a big movie star? Isn't that what happened to the actor who played Mark Brandon Oz? Spelling is probably way wrong, from Parks and Rec? Tom Hanks left bosom buddies and was never heard from again. I know he didn't leave the Twilight movies, but Taylor Lautner was supposed to be the next big action movie star, and outside of being Taylor Swift's boyfriend in that Valentine's Day movie, I've never seen him again. Edit, okay, I get it, he was in some cuckoo British show. But everyone does realize he was last on that show over 5 years ago, right? Shelley Long left Cheers and Epic Up. Ed Marinaro left Hill St. Blues. Both actors left their roles when the shows were hot at the time. Neither were ever to return to the success they enjoyed on those shows. Benjamin Bratt. He left Law and Order to capitalize on his stardom, hasn't been in much since The Cleaner and Miss Congeniality. Jerry Halliwell, Ginger Spice, left the Spice Girls for a solo career. She had 1 or 2 original singles and a cover and disappeared into obscurity. It was so infamous that she was mentioned on Brexit protest signs. https://www.reddit.com/r/ireland/comments/allo/brexit_in_a_nutshell/edit. To all the responses saying she married a rich and successful guy, marrying someone with money, while she clearly had her own spice money before, is not the same as breaking away from one of the biggest pop acts of the day and trying to create your own success. That's attaching yourself to his success. She could have had her own career and a successful husband. Jonathan Taylor Thomas leaving Home Improvement. When he returned to the show, not only was his movie career dead in the water, but the TV show had left his character behind. Kathrine Heigl. She left Grey's to become a movie star. Look how that turned out. She was also a massive problem on the Grey's set. Doesn't qualify as being too good for it, but that actress who got booted off of The Mandalorian and is now doing really crappy conservative funded flicks is a pretty good example. And PAT SAJAK only worked, like 4 days every 2 months. What a dream job. Radar left and did a lot of stage work. I assume he never really needed to work again after 8 years on MASH. The only person who really seemed to have a career after MASH was Hawkeye. I remember he went on Howard Stern right after he quit, and Howard bluntly asked him what TF he was thinking and telling him he was an absolute idiot for leaving. Howard was right. Happened to a friend of mine =25 years ago in Los Angeles. She had a recurring role on a hit network sitcom, but it was a dumb show and she wanted to be taken seriously, so she quit just as she was getting noticed. Never got another good role, quit acting a few years later and moved to Las Vegas to run a Pilates studio. Imagine being an elevated extra and thinking you can make demands like this. Oh no, you're gonna leave . But we can't do the show without you. I don't know if the following is true, but I seem to recall him asking for $1 million per film to return for the sequels because Tank was such an integral character, in Marcus' opinion. Then the studio said that, hired Harold Perrineau, and killed Tank off via a couple lines of dialogue. Jessica Brown Findlay was one of the first people I thought of. She's done a few things since she left, but none of them seem bigger to me than Downton Abbey did. My stepmother has some odd relation to Katie Holmes, like third cousin twice removed kind of. Won't shut up about it. Calls it her claim to fame. I keep asking her what Katie has been in and she can't answer, lol. Edit. Had no idea thousands of people would find my stepmother's odd relation to Katie Holmes so interesting. I like how Ludacris was in the second one as basically a cameo and then went on to become a major part in the franchise. He had that sweet Firefest gig to go to. They even did an inside joke on the show while at a drive-in movie. Cliff and Norm make note that one of the original actresses in the Godzilla films was replaced by another female actress, and left halfway through the series. I don't understand, wonders, why would an actress leave right in the middle of a successful series? Thank Viggo's son Alex for pushing him to take the role. His son is a huge LOTR fan and thought it would be cool for his dad to play Aragorn. He pretty much did it for his son. Wait, that's why he was dropped? I'd heard people saying it was just that he wasn't the right fit. I never heard anything about him refusing to rehearse the action stuff. Also, best recasting ever. Stuart, I refuse to practice Viggo, literally breaks bone for the role. I met him once. He came to a Comic-Con convention at my job years ago. Everyone was like, he looks so familiar. And someone finally figured it out. I worked in a coffee shop on site, and he was so humble and down to earth. He just hung out in our lobby with his wife and played with his kids for a few hours, took some pictures with couple employees and gave us an amazing tip. Cool dude. One of the only celebs I've ever met. I missed Henry Blake and I genuinely enjoyed his character, but the addition of Sherman T. Potter really elevated that show. Imo. Growing up raised by television, his character was a really good role model. Not too familiar with his other work or life outside of TV, but I always enjoyed him in that role. She sounds like someone who's about to give up a huge opportunity. TBF, Family Guy was cancelled after the third season. It wasn't until it hit huge in DVD sales that Fox brought it back. The ratings weren't great those first 3 seasons and it seemed like the show was done for good. I don't know anything about that world, but if the writing is terrible and you still act your way to an Emmy nomination, isn't that just further support for your acting ability? Why not accept the nomination, potentially win the award, and then use that as bargaining leverage for the change you want? This is all bizarre to me. Yes, Kate Winslet had a reading with Matthew McConaughey as Jack before Leo's role was finalized. James Cameron's explanation, https://youtube.b/nyeptig, t=133, of Leo on Titanic is fantastic. He does not sugarcoat the encounter at all. Christian Bale said Leo has first dibs on any movie in Hollywood now. The man who starred in Zardoz didn't understand The Lord of the Rings? Really? You cannot pash. Not for nothing, but I'm glad he turned it down. Sir Ian McKellen was perfect in that role. I cannot see anyone else pulling it off the way he did. Edit, McKellen. As several have pointed out, I messed up his name. My bad. Autofill did the work for me and I missed it. Apologies. While it's not a deep film, I really enjoyed Extraordinary Gentlemen. It was a lot of fun. I mean, they weren't making Casablanca. That movie had already been made. Next time, baby, I don't think so. Look, it's me, I'm here, deal with it. Let's move on. Don Cheadle. Terrence Howard is completely batshit insane. Howard wanted more money than RDJ and a contract that guaranteed him a raise to ensure he would always be paid more than RDJ. They should have offered to calculate his rate with his own math. https://twitter.com/terrence-howard/status/92574491881877507. If 1 times 1 equals 1, that means that 2 is of no value because 1 times itself has no effect. 1 times 1 equals 2 because the square root of 4 is 2, so what's the square root of 2? Should be 1. but we're told it's 2, and that cannot be. Married Tom Cruise turned down Buffy turned down Oytund, maybe she's just a habitual bad decision maker. Really makes me wonder how Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki were on Supernatural as long as they were. 15 years spent filming on that schedule? 22 to 24 episode seasons? Absolutely grueling. Gotta assume the money and brotherhood made it all worth it.